And yes, Erin will drop that link in the chat one more time. There we go.
Hi, stuffing. Uh-oh, John, you're fasting that day? I once had to have a procedure the day before Thanksgiving, and yes, I also missed out on all of the Thanksgiving.
Leftovers are the best, however, so if it's something you could postpone.
It's true.
This may be controversial, but I am a firm believer that the turkey is the least exciting part of Thanksgiving. I'm a big fan of all the sides. And my favorite thing, we do a Friendsgiving with a group of our friends every year. And I think that's the most fun because then you get everybody's favorite Thanksgiving side. And we have a friend who brings, it's not something I ever had growing up, but corn casserole. And it is divine. It's like extra decadent cornbread. So delicious.
Well, it looks like Amber agrees with you, Molly. Everything but the turkey. It's all about the sides.
Totally agree.
And Janelle, squash. I'm with Janelle. Oh my goodness. I had this delicata squash recipe that I made the other day, and it was so yummy.
I was gonna do it. I'm just sending this email. Oh, I always
Okay. It's looking like
hello.
looking like we're getting added in. And all right, I'm gonna go ahead, and because this is just an informal meeting, let's do a little bit of math. Let's start it off with a brief math activity, and then we'll go ahead and make some announcements. And Mike has some assessment information to share, and then we'll open it up to questions. But because this is the math department, let's do some math. So the first task that I'd like you to do is I'd like you to just think about a notice and wonder. We're going to do a notice and wonder with kind of a slow reveal graph, and then we'll have a chance to talk about it. So the first image right here is, let's see if I can get it to go. And I apologize for the screenshot. You'll see a clear one in a moment. What do you notice and what do you wonder? Think about it. Hey, if your camera's on, it's okay if it's not. But if you have something, if you'll just give me a thumbs up, that'll let me know that you're ready to go ahead and have a brief conversation. It can be a notice or it can be a wonder. Okay. You know what? I didn't want to do this, but I do want to do this because I love being able to talk with your colleagues before we have a conversation. So let's go ahead and do a very short, I don't want it to be long. So say hello, introduce yourself to the other people in the group or in your breakout room. But I'm gonna create some breakout rooms where we have just about 3 to 4 people in a room, and we're only going to do it for 3 minutes. So introduce yourself, but then say something about what you notice and what you wonder. And I realize that the image will go away. So if somebody wants to do a screenshot, or if you want to do a screenshot so you can refer to the image again, go ahead and do that. But notice and wonder, about this image and say hello to your colleagues. So I'll see you back here in 3 minutes. Uh-oh. Mike got put in a room too.
Mike can say hello to people. He'll be okay.
Yeah, he'll be like, he knows what the image is. He won't give it away.
I just kicked myself out of the room. I will go back.
All good.
Good.
Like unceremoniously kicking people to breakout rooms as they join. I'm like, yeah, they'll be fine.
There you go.
Everyone's just gonna
There
say
you
hello. Heather, are you struggling?
Good job. Heather, just do a notice and wonder with us. What were you
It keeps like
noticing?
I was just sitting there and all of a sudden I jump back here.
That's too funny.
It must want me to be with you. So yeah.
What do you
The
notice?
universe telling you need to notice and wonder with me and Melissa.
This is what I think of when I look at that. It kind of reminds me of a TeachFX report with student talk and teacher talk.
Oh, I love that.
Hmm.
What makes you what would be the student talk and what would be the teacher
The
talk?
blue is usually the student talk and then the red is the teacher talk.
Oh,
So students are talking and working in groups or that, and then we have some teacher talk and then we have some student talk.
oh, I love that.
And then if that's a 1:55, it was for 1:55 is what it recorded.
I love that. I love that.
I did not put that together, but I did. I was like, it seems like a distribution of some kind. And I was wondering, like, why is there this red cluster in the middle? And I was wondering, is it exactly in the middle? Like,
Yeah.
facial awareness is not my strongest skill, but I was like, it looks like it's in the dead center of this distribution. So I wanted to know why. Why is there this solid red block right in the middle?
Yeah. Some people said it looked like a barcode, but barcodes aren't blue and
Oh.
red.
Oh, I like that though. I like that. Man, math teachers have good questions.
Right. Well, and looking at it again, I noticed, which I did not notice initially, there are, and maybe it's just the lines extending, but like tick marks almost at the bottom, evenly distributed.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
So did you draw this, Melissa?
I did not.
Okay.
Great question. Great wondering. All right. Everyone will be back in about 5 seconds.
Hey,
Okay, and
sorry I kept jumping back. It just wanted me to be with you today.
all right, welcome back. Hopefully you had a chance to say hello to your friends and colleagues. And also hopefully you had a chance to chat a little bit about the image. We know some of you just got added to the room, added to the group and then immediately had to go to the breakout room. So you might not have seen the image, but hopefully your fellow group members filled you in. So I would love to hear someone's voice from any of the rooms at this point to kind of summarize what were some of the things that you talked about. So I'm going to ask for anyone in group 4. That's Sarah, Lisa, Janelle, or Alden. Would one of you be willing to unmute and kind of share what you had a conversation about?
I will.
Thank you.
So we
Sarah?
noticed that there were some thick blue lines and thin blue lines, thick white and thick white, red in the middle. We wondered what that meant. And then there was a time down in the bottom, perhaps 1:55, maybe that was a time. So Kind of wondering what it was. Looked like an attention span of a child, but it's probably, or time on task. I don't know, that's where I go.
Attention span, time on task. I love
Yeah,
that. How many of you are connecting to what Sarah's group also reported? Mentioning some of the features of the image, talking about time on task. What were some of the other wonderings that anyone had? And I'm not going to call on a room this time.
Well, it kind of looked like a barcode also, so we're wondering if it had it meant for a code or something like that, and it looked like a barcode.
Yeah, so making that connection, or
Yeah.
you know, oh, same as, I agree with that. Anyone else have a suggestion of what it could be? So we've heard barcode, we've heard time on task.
I love that Nicole in our group mentioned that it looks like, oh, the printer's out of ink. It's like,
But
yeah.
So we're making all these connections to some of these things that we've seen in our real lives. Okay, anyone else noticing or wondering? I am going to call on neurons firing. Oh, I like that. Heather, because you got kicked into a group with us, I know what you were sharing. Do you mind sharing what you were talking about and what you
Yes.
saw?
So when I looked at this, it reminded me of a Teach FX report that teachers get with student talk and teacher talk. So the blue are students talking, and then the red is the teacher talking, and then the blue again is the student talking. And that it was over a time period of 1 minute and 55 seconds, if that's what it means at the end. So
Yeah, so you were connecting to kind of that 155, just like Sarah's group had mentioned. You were looking at the blue represents something and the red represents something. Okay, I think we're ready for the next image. And how does this change? Oops, I just gave it all away. How does this change what you were talking about, or does it confirm what you were talking about? And we won't go into breakout groups for this one. And feel free to either put it in chat, or if you'd like to come off mute and make a comment, that would be great.
I mean, to me, it seems like possession of the ball, which kind of is similar to teacher talk or student talk. You know, it's just one person or the other. It's kind of binary.
Yeah. So who has possession of the ball? That's the connection you're making.
and maybe red is a timeout.
A timeout.
Yeah.
Heather, my brain went to the same place as Keith, that it was probably possession of the ball. And thinking about what you, me, and Melissa discussed in our breakout in the beginning, I now think the red is probably halftime. Because I was wondering if it was right in the middle and why it was red. It's probably halftime, so no one had possession of the ball. That's
Right.
my assumption
And
based
it
on the
could-
image that looks like a soccer field.
And it could be an hour and 55 minutes.
Oh,
for the
so
whole
add
game.
15 minutes. Love that. So it could be an hour and 55 minutes. Okay, as we continue, this is the what's it called? Legend? I don't know. The ball in play, not in play, and halftime. So I love the questions that you were asking, and I love the ideas that you were coming up with. This is just a really fun image that showed up in one of my Instagram. It showed up in my Instagram feed and said, you might like this. And I was like, why, in fact, I do. The algorithm worked this time. Not always. Sometimes I'm like, why am I getting this image? But this one comes from oh shoot, I didn't put the name, but I'll put the name of the account. But basically they create data images, and they do a whole lot with sports. It's sports images all the time, but they do a whole lot where they represent something or a question in a really interesting way. Now, the last few posts have all been about sports gambling, so probably don't share that with your kids because that might get us into a little bit of trouble. But preview it in advance if you do decide to do something like this with your class. But we'll go ahead and see this short video. It goes fast, and they draw the image, but let's see if I can get it to go. Can you hear the sound? Sorry, I just realized that I didn't share my. So let me go back and reshare so that you can hear the sound. Optimize for video sharing. Okay, this time when I restart it, will you give me a thumbs up when it goes? Because I think the sound plays is helpful.
Was requesting a time spent analysis to compare European football to American sports. Here it goes. We watched the Liverpool versus Arsenal game from last week and categorized each second of the game into ball in play, ball out of play, and halftime. Of course, the sport is famous for 2 continuous halves without commercial breaks, as you can see here. And even during halftime, the commercials were only a couple minutes, so when it all maths out, the ball was in play for 49.4% of the game, out of play for 39.4%, and halftime was just 11.2%. Then we dug deeper and further categorized the out-of-play time. The vast majority of the stoppages were quick restarts like throw-ins, corner kicks, and basic fouls, which took up 29 minutes of the broadcast. Then you have injury stoppages, which made up 5.6 minutes of the game, and mostly came when Arsenal was leading by a goal in the second half. The 4 goal celebrations were about a minute each, and then electronic goal reviews and substitutions made up the rest of the stoppages. It's really interesting comparing this to the 4 American leagues we already analyzed. As we expected, the in-play time was the most, and even quick stoppages felt pretty active. What's intriguing, though, was how limited the commercials were even during halftime. It makes us wonder about how the Premier League's media contracts work, and something we'll definitely look into in the future. Follow for more sports data visualizations. Everyone was requesting a time spent analysis to compare European football to.
Okay, that's and all of the images that they have are just really quick little videos. And so that's why all of my images are really blurry, because in order to kind of capture it. But I loved some of the questions that they had. Let's go ahead and I'd like you to go back to your breakout rooms, and I'm going to keep it really short again, just maybe 3 minutes. Have a conversation about how might you use something like this with our emphasis that we've been looking at in data science. We've got some data science groups working on pilots and really rethinking how data is presented with students. How might using something like this, or even just a task, it doesn't have to be the specific one, how might that impact your teachers and your students? So I'm going to, again, keep it for 3 minutes, and we'll see you back here in 3 minutes. And I will share the link to this. Yeah.
I did also link the video link into the
Right.
agenda.
Perfect. Yeah, and because it's Instagram, it was like I had to sign into my account in order to show it. I'm gonna list the account to follow too. Yeah, I went down a rabbit hole with this one. I was like watching all of them over and over and over again.
You'll have to send me the account. I love a good math account.
Yeah, I know certain ones where I'm just like, oh.
The algorithm really, my algorithm got really messed up when I had Theodore, where it used to be really perfect, and now it's just all parenting and baby content all the time, which I'm like, some of it I appreciate, but I'm like, that is not my entire identity. I need to go engage with some other accounts so that when I'm mindlessly scrolling, it's not all parenting related.
So true. But
Like
then
I used to
sometimes,
get fun hiking and camping and running and math stuff. And I'm like, where did it all go?
like, what happened? This wasn't on Instagram, but this was on YouTube. Something happened where I kept getting videos about people who were camping by themselves in the snow or in rain. And it's like silent videos. They're just setting up their tent sites. It was so relaxing. And so I'd watch one, and then all of a sudden I'd get another one. And now for a really long time, it's like, this lady likes to camp in poor weather by herself. I do not like to do any of this.
That's not your MO.
But that was funny. Like how an algorithm works. It's confirmation bias right there.
Mhm.
Okay, everyone's gonna
Right? Like that in and of itself is a cool data conversation to have with kids.
it's really true. Really true.
Welcome back, everybody.
Okay. Yeah. Um, I just posted the Instagram account. It's called Sports Ball on Instagram. And they do a lot of data visualization. So I'd love to hear one or two comments about I think I gave you like 4 different questions at the same time, but how might you use this? Anything about data, anything just with a notice and wonder or slow reveal graph. I'd love to hear what your topic, where your conversations went.
I was talking about how often data is, or, anything statistics is at the end of math books and how we never get to it. And how frustrating it is because it's the one part of math that people are going to engage with the most probably in their lives, going forward. So there's a little bit of bitterness in my ideas with data.
You're like, wait a minute, this is something that is so important in our lives. Why is it something that gets skimmed over? Is that kind of what you're saying, Keith?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, anyone else want to add to or
Melissa,
share an idea? Yeah. Thanks,
yeah,
Mike.
and so one of the things I appreciate just even how you rolled it out is that slow reveal, right? So we just started with just people like, oh, that kind of looks like a barcode, but there's no information. And I love how that gets students thinking about like, it'd sure be nice if I had something else here that would help me understand what this is, and then slowly reveal something else. And now students are really honed in on those other things and going, oh, what does this tell me? Where sometimes when we give them everything at once, it's a little bit hard for them to break it apart. So I really appreciated that slow reveal with the graphics to help kids be curious and wonder about it.
Yeah, it helps everyone engage and notice the important parts of the graph. And so then when you're ready to do what Keith is saying and analyze it and really dive deep into it, those surface level things that you need to understand about data visualizations are now everyone now has some sort of access to it. So yeah, I believe it was shared in a SMECC meeting, the slow reveal graph website that is so great. I love that. We'll go ahead and add that to our oh nope, you've already added it. Thanks, Keith. It's already there in chat, the slow reveal graphs. Okay.
Melissa,
Yeah.
one thing that came up in our group was just kind of the question of how do you build in math into this? Because while we did the reveal, like we did the we weren't really doing any math explicitly with it. So we were just talking about that. Like, what would you do? What kind of questions would you ask about some things? So, before revealing the end, you might ask like, okay, what percentage do you think is blue? What percentage do you think is red? Just little things, because to turn it from a non-curricular kind of engaging task to a math task.
I
So-
love that. So taking it from and elevating it, adding some rigor to it. Because I might push back a little bit that you weren't doing any math, because analyzing and looking at data is mathematical. But I love what you were saying, that let's see if we can make it a little bit more rigorous by adding something where we need to look at the computation, where we need to look at those percentages, where we need to ask another question. So yes, I love that you spent some time going there, because if we always leave it at surface level, non-curricular types of conversations, then we're never going to meet the level of the standards that are required for our grade level or whatever content is that we're looking at. So thank you for bringing that up, Alden.
Alden, I think it big time also gets down to like, what is the intent of the activity? Today, our intent was very much just to get us in a mathematical mindset, kind of using more of that like SMP part of our brain and not necessarily using a hard mathematical skill on this task. But I think, like Melissa said, this could be a really great jumping off point for talking more about ratio or percent, or even just getting students curious about the math in sports. Like we just looked at this data image that shows the ball in play versus the ball out of play. Like it could be a really great starting point to get students asking their own questions about like, what other mathematical things could we capture and organize and display in different sports? Like maybe soccer is not your sport, maybe football is, or tennis. How could we do a similar representation that was accurate and mathematical for other sports as well? So I think the task in and of itself, as we presented it, may not have had a direct link to a specific grade level math standard, but I think it's all about how you frame the task.
I also wanted to add that one of the things that I like about the images and then like the slow reveal images is that it also goes cross-curricular. I use slides like this, especially in ELA and social studies, where students are having to look at images and look closely for clues and then using that to inference and using that. So it's like almost supporting a lot of different things we're asking students as far as critical thinking and how to critically look at images or how to make. Yeah, so that's the other thing I like about this is that it's not always necessarily specific to math, but just how we're creating cognitive questioning.
Love that, Erin. Thank you. And yeah, the final question in that video was something that I was really intrigued by also, because it brought up the number of commercials that were aired during the different major sports. And then they said, what does the role of media play in sports and finances? And that right there, it's kind of been a question that's just been rolling around in my brain again and again and again, because I love watching sports on TV. Do not love playing all the sports, but I love watching sports on TV. And so that was something that I'm like, oh, what is it that that's a question that I'm still interested in. Those are some things that we want our students to be able to engage in. All right. Thank you for all those wonderful ideas and the engagement. I think as a group, we love to engage in math, and we have such great questions. All right. This is a follow-up to something that was shared last year. And I think, Mike, did you want to share this, the video here?
Yeah, so just to bring this back up to everyone, just that last year we were introduced to the formative assessment process toolkit. And so one, just bring that back to the forefront and remind people about it. But then two, there was just a video release that captures a little bit about what that's about that we wanted to share with the community. So if you don't mind, Melissa, it's only like a minute and a half, I think. Go back to, do they both link to the toolkit, or does one of them link to the video? I thought the video.
The second one links to the
There you
video.
go. Yeah, okay. So like I said, pretty short, but we just wanted to bring that back to our minds as a community, and feel free to share that out as a way of introducing that resource as well. I actually love what it talks about, what formative assessment is not, and really thinking about what it means for us to be formatively assessing in our classroom. I actually thought activities like what Melissa let us in at the start, where we get students talking and we have that discourse, is one of the richest ways to get that formative assessment going on, where we actually get to see how students are thinking and what they're understanding. I believe, let's go to the next one. So this one is really just an announcement. XQ Math, this is not with USB, but we told them that we'd share this. They're looking for teachers. They're really, it's a company that's geared towards project-based learning, and they are looking for communities that would be interested in helping them pilot to do project-based learning type things, and they're developing some things. So if that's something that makes sense for your community and you would like to dive into that a little bit more, they're looking for people that would be willing to dive in and do that. And they would provide free professional development, and all the resources are for free as well, as you're a part of that. So just sharing that, feel free to dive in. And when you look to that slide, to that link there, it also has contact information on the very last page. There's the people you can contact if you're wanting to learn more and dive into that a little bit more for your community.
Great, thanks, Mike. We also have one other opportunity. This isn't from USBE, but Jackie is one of our colleagues. She works in Salt Lake City School District, and she has a tutoring program. And so she's looking to hire tutors. So if you know of anyone that would like to potentially be an in-person or online tutor, this is something that you may want to go ahead and share with them. So,
and both of those links are now in the agenda, and they will be in the slides as well when we get those up on the Canvas course.
Thanks, Molly. Okay, so I think in the documents that we shared, we had a couple of questions that came up. But before we address any of these, are there any other questions that you were hoping to ask at this meeting or pose to the members of the group that you'd like to have discussed? We would love to just kind of open the floor right now for anyone who has questions or concerns.
Imagine this. I have a question. So what is the most recent update on math standards? I don't know if that's been addressed, but I'm always curious about that.
So the most recent update, Keith, is that we are still, apologies, my cat and dog chose the exact moment that I unmuted to freak out behind me. Working from home, always fun. But the math standards are still at the same place that they were last time we gave you all an update. Our writers and writing teams are still working on making revisions. We are hopefully approaching an end, which is really awesome and really exciting. But it also means that we're now, well, I say approaching an end with this initial draft that we then move on to the board and go through multiple iterations of potential revisions. But we're at a point where the writers are doing a lot of fine tuning, really trying to make the revisions that they have made as polished and beautiful as possible for our teachers and students. So the standards revision process is a 13-step process, which we have shared that document with you before. I can link it into the agenda again for those who want to look at it. We are in step 6 and approaching the end of step 6, which is the bulkiest, longest part of the process where the writers do the bulk of that revision work. The next step will be taking that draft that the writers have created. We release it to the USBE board for a 30-day window in which they're allowed to make all of their comments on the documents. And then that draft with their comments goes back to the writing team. and the writing team gets to adjudicate all of the board comments. We are hopeful that we won't get too many and it won't be a huge lift, but it may be substantial for the writers to go through those. So once the writers adjudicate those comments from the board, we take a draft back to the full board at a public board meeting and request that the board releases the standard document for a 90-day public review, at which point then we would be able to share it broadly. So our hope is to be having it released for public review sometime in the spring, like late winter, early spring. That is our goal time frame based on how things are looking right now with the work that the writers still have to do. Which would mean the standards likely wouldn't be finalized until sometime in the midst of the 25-26 school year. So they would not be implemented until the 26-27 school year. So they are still a little ways down the road. The revisions are taking time, which is a lot. And I know it's hard for everyone to wait on unknowns, but know that they are taking time because the writing teams that we have are full of incredible experts who are being really, really thoughtful and intentional with all of the revisions that they are proposing. Any other questions from the group?
I have a question.
Yes.
If I can jump in. So a context, I work at a charter school, so we're kind of self-contained, right? We don't have the whole district. And I'm fairly new to I'm the math specialist, right? So I'm fairly new to this. So just trying to figure out, we have a sixth grader who is like really accelerated, like 2 years ahead of our already accelerated group of students. So we got him enrolled in an online school for like an 8th grade math class, which he's now finishing. And so now I'm like, all right, what do I do with this kid? Because what do I do with this kid for the next, 5 months of school? Because it doesn't feel right to just push him into the next course and the next course and the next course. So I'm just wondering what other schools, like school districts or other charter schools, what do you do when you have students who are so profoundly far ahead of even your other like accelerated students in math?
In our school, we have sent them over to the high school or middle school. So if you don't,
We don't. So since we're a charter school, right? We're a
we're
K-6
a charter school also.
Okay, so
We're
you
a
send
charter
them
school
to
also. They can
just
go
get-
to a local school, public school, and enroll in a class. Usually,
parents just pick them up and take them over for an hour.
usually
math
it's the
time,
first
or?
period of the day. We try to
Okay.
have them in a math class, either the first period of the day or the end of the day. And the parent would need to pick them up and transport them.
Our math is right in the middle of the day, unfortunately.
For Granite District, when we have kids that have accelerated and can't teach that class, we actually have an online class that during that time they go into like the library or into another room and they work on the online class because we have a few students that can't get them there. But we also have our high schools or AB schedule, and it doesn't fit the schedule of the junior highs.
Yeah, well, and we're in elementary school, right? So this is
yeah.
a 6th grader. I should have clarified. A 6th grader in elementary school. This is not a 6th grader in middle school. And so he has been doing an online course through, an accredited. So he did 7th grade math already, and now he's blowing through the 8th grade honors class that they offer. And like I said, he doesn't want to just sit on the computer all day. He wants to be like working with other students and things. So,
well, we had one student like that, and to adjust so when he went to junior high or middle the next year, they adjusted his schedule so that he took both. As an 8th grader, he took AP calculus and AP physics. So every day he would go over to the high school for that time period and take one day and one the other day.
okay.
So they worked his schedule with another high school class to help him accelerate. And he was the Sterling Scholar this last year for Utah. Yeah.
Is he also able to, or does he have the social skills to also help support other students or help design projects? at all?
It's interesting. It's hard to get. He's an interesting kid. So like he's on my math. I have a math competition team that I run, and he's on the team and he does great in there. But whenever I talk to him, I'm like, what kind of things you're interested in? He's like, I don't know. He's he like he's not sure. So we've done some physics labs and things. I don't have the capacity, like I don't have anyone that can sit with him for 2 hours and do every day and do one-on-one like project-based learning with him. That's my other, right? Like because it's again one of the challenges of the charter school.
Alton, I don't know if
That's
you,
good.
I know it's hard sometimes to chat,
Mhm.
to do the chat
Mhm.
while you're chatting.
Yeah.
Joanna Sorensen is USBE's gifted and talented
Okay.
specialist. She might be a great person for you to
Yeah.
reach out to, who could help connect you to some resources in that gifted and talented space if he is so significantly far advanced. And then
Yeah.
Brynja also commented that USU may have some opportunities available to work with that student. So she might be another great
Okay.
person to reach out to.
Do you have I don't
I
know
can
that I
put
have contact.
Joanna's.
Yeah. If
Yeah,
I
I'll
can
put
get
Joanna's
contact
email in the
information, that would
chat,
be
and
great.
Brynja, do you want to put yours?
Thank you.
Hey,
I have
Ada.
a question. Go ahead, Carla.
Yeah, I was just going to say we had a situation at our school with a student who was just quickly advancing through math. And we ended up having to work with Joanna would probably be a good one because I can't remember who else it was at the USBE. But and I might not explain this correctly, so that's why you need to reach out. But they can only get so many credits of math, like for high school. And if they do it too soon, then they have to take those classes again. They can't have credit for like high school math pre-high school unless they have been designated. There's a few criteria the child has to meet. So you want to be careful about advancing a student too quickly, because if they're doing it in sixth grade where they're starting to do like eighth, ninth grade math, when they get into those grade levels, they'll have to either repeat and they won't get credit for doing it when they were younger, unless they have been identified as gifted and talented. And that's what our student was identified as gifted and talented. So because he met that qualification, I don't quite remember what the second qualification was. It was kind of an either or.
Okay.
So
That's good.
the state, when I met with them, really emphasized instead of going further, just go deeper
Yeah.
at the math where he's at. So maybe since he's a sixth grader, you would just go a lot deeper with that sixth grade math instead of moving him forward. So there is definitely some guidelines you want to find out from the state for that, so that he doesn't run into trouble with his credits when he does get into high school and having to repeat classes that he had when he was younger.
That'd be annoying. Yeah, and that is one of the things that we were looking into, but that's good to know. I will follow up. I'll ask Joanna about what that looks like. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks.
I have a question about the teacher salary supplement, which I understand the law's changing so that it now goes to the districts to have control over how they are going to use that. And I'm, at Utah State, where anyway, teachers are interested in getting their degrees in mathematics so that they can qualify for that. Is that going to affect them? And what are your recommendations?
Brynja, that's an excellent question that I do not know the answer to. Melissa or Mike, do you? And if not, we can find someone who does.
I believe it's in July when it's going to switch over to the new law, as far as that I'm aware of. And I do have a link because someone emailed me about this just a few weeks ago. And I can send information out on what we have so far, but I think we're a few months away from knowing exactly how that change is going to look. There is, just like you said, Brenda, there's going to be opportunities for districts to say, hey, these are some of our needs. But then it looks like it still has to go through an approval process somewhere else before that can just be decided by the district. So there's another layer to it. So I will look for that and see if I can share the additional information that I have on that.
Molly, I've got a thought about that. At the Student Services Directors meeting, I think the majority of districts currently plan to keep that SHINE program largely in line with how TSSP has worked. They will have the discretion to add on to it. We're having that conversation on our district, but we're still waiting for a lot of details from the state and hope we get those soon. So.
I so appreciate our collective hive mind having answers to questions that I don't always know the answer to. Thank you all. Any other questions from the group today? And if not, we got a couple of questions on the Google form that we shared out that we would love to address and get everyone's thoughts and feedback on.
While you're pulling that up, Molly, I just put a link to the document that has information. It's on page 15 in the document for people that want to look more into the SHINE program.
Yeah, thank you for these great questions. We really appreciate the feedback that that we're getting. So these were, am I sharing my screen right now? Questions updates. These were two of the questions that surfaced. And I think let's start with the second one, because the question about how are individuals communicating with parents? How are you helping parents understand the standards that are taught in each grade level? And we do have a couple of resources that are available from the state, and then we'd love to hear other groups' information about that. So these are parent guides that were created aligned with the different content areas. And so it's for each grade level. And then when you click on it, you just need to go ahead and scroll down to math and find what the essential item is. And I'm not going to scroll right in front here of everyone, but we'll go ahead and link this. So this is a USB-E document that is available if you'd like to share those. Previously, in a previous core, these were USOE. It's so old that it was the Utah State Office of Education. And these are posted on Jordan School District's website. And these are some additional core guides. And they look like, whoops, when I open it up, it's got Spanish and English versions, and it has some examples of what the standards might look like. So those are some resources. I'd love to hear from the group. What are some other ways that you communicate standards to parents in your community?
To be completely honest, I'm still trying to get teachers to embrace them.
We haven't
So
done a
getting
report
parents
card.
is tough.
Molly, we haven't reported, we have them outlined on our report card, starting with 4th grade.
We are also constantly helping our teachers understand them better. However, one thing that one of our schools did, it was, and I'm conveying this for Janine in Ogden because she told me about this, is one of her junior highs or high schools, I can't remember which, looked at all the students who were, who displayed lots of potential for growth and who may not have passed a math course first term. And they actually called every single one of those parents. I know this is a big lift, but the admin called every single one of those parents and they said, okay, how can we support your students? And they found that there was a lot of parents who cared and they just felt helpless because they didn't know how to support their students. So I wonder from that response if it's not as much, I mean, part of it's understanding the standards, but also what do I do with this? How can I help from there? And so I don't know that that's an answer, but that was an interesting insight for me. And so that's just a thought.
In Granite District, we've worked with parents and schools, our kindergarten and in first grade, they put together a quarterly or a semester kit that has things for both reading and math of activities that they can do at home. And so then they invite the parents in and we share how to do those with the students and the parents so that then they can take those and use those throughout the first semester. And then they have a new one coming out this second semester. We've also done things with family engagement and the STEM Action Center in some of our family STEM nights, talking to parents about playing games and different things and how they relate to the standards. And then the kids go home with games in that to play so that parents know some ways to support students as well. So, yeah.
Love those suggestions. That's awesome. Heather, I don't know if you would be able to share anything from Granite that you have, but if you would, we would be happy to pass that along.
Yeah. I will talk with Jen and Rachel. They're the key dudes. And well, in our family engagement center is so amazing to work with. In fact, the next kits that we're working on, we've invited a couple stakes to help put the kits together, thanks to Rachel.
Fantastic.
So that they're all ready. And that's like 4,000 to 5,000 kits that they make for every single student in kinder and first grade. So
wow, that is impressive.
Yeah.
That is impressive. And I'm also glad that you brought up the STEM Action Center. We had a tour at their facility the other day and their maker space, and it was really exciting. There are some great opportunities that you can do with students and teachers. Okay, we're running down to our last minute, so we'll save the expectation of district adopted curriculum. We'll save that conversation for another meeting, but we appreciate your engagement today. The next informal meetings, we've got one in December and then one in January. And then our next hybrid meeting will be Thursday, February 13th. We've got the day set aside for that. It will be held in Basement West at USBE. And guys, if you haven't been to USBE for a while, they remodeled it. There's a new floor. So if that counts as remodeling. Oh, and the break room looks really nice too.
Break room down there. They did do a whole remodel. The floor just like the last piece that's coming in. It's all updated. Basement West doesn't look that different, but the rest of the basement does. Very exciting.
Nice. So for that alone, the vending machines come and visit with us there. But hopefully that's on your agenda, and we will stay on for a minute if anyone else has additional questions. But we want to make sure that we value your time. We value your time and keep it to our hour. So we'll see you at the next meeting on December 17th, or feel free to reach out to any of us, Mike, Molly, or myself, the 3 M's. We will be happy to get your questions answered.
Thanks all for joining us.
Hey, Molly, can I just recap what you said about the standards? Because I kind of want to communicate that correctly. So we're at the end of the writing, there's going to be a 30-day period for the board to make correction or to give input. After that, it'll go through a revision process, which would then lead to a 60-day or 90-day, you said?
Yes, so the board will give their feedback, the writers will make revisions accordingly and respond to all of the board comments. And then the next step after that will be to take the standards to the full board to request permission to release them to
Okay.
public for a 90-day review. That will be a formal board agenda item. So at that point, we will probably be letting you all know ahead of time, hey, the standards are coming to the full board. Because we would love the support of the math community in any way possible at that time. So we will let you know, don't you worry, when we get to that point where the standards are going to the board to request release.
Okay. And then you think that, I mean, kind of projecting, we never know how long anything's going to take, but probably sometime next school year is when they'd actually be adopted, which would mean they'd be implemented the following school year.
Yeah, that's most likely with the way that the timeline
Sure.
rolls out, that's likely when they would actually be adopted sometime during the 25-26 school year and then implemented in the 26-27, which would put assessment items into the 27-28 school year because it takes a little while for the test vendors to update questions, pilot them, and then roll them out broadly.
Okay. Okay. Sounds great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Molly,
Yeah.
a follow-up question on that, because I'm going into an RFP, can you give any indication of how different the new standards would be compared to the old standards? Because I'm trying to align, like I don't want to adopt a curriculum that's not going to align with the new standards.
Bev, if you're doing a curriculum adoption, go ahead with your curriculum adoption with the standards as they currently are. The work the writers have done so far, there are tweaks and changes, but what we have told to everyone who has asked us that question is the math, especially in the elementary space, the math is still going to be the math. The standard may look different, the naming conventions may be different. When all is said and done with the board, we don't know where they'll end up entirely, but go ahead with your adoption. And one of our goals is as soon as those standards are finalized, we will roll out a crosswalk document that aligns our current standards with the new standards. So if you have just adopted a new curriculum, or if you're still using an older curriculum, you will have that crosswalk document to help support your teachers as we're in the process of doing things like making new core guides and providing PL to help everyone learn about any updates or changes that are made.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.